Hey. Okay. Hi, my name is Addie, and I'm a biology and anthropology major with a minor in dance and psychology at Texas State University. It's crazy how God works and moves through the ebb and flow of life's many changes. When I was 2 years old, my parents divorced, and my dad moved back to England where he was from, so it was just me and my mom. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in January of 2013. I was just turning 9. She went through treatment with just the two of us. She withdrew me from school and she went on disability, and we moved for 6 weeks to Houston for radiation treatments. We spent our mornings in radiation and our afternoons at the zoo, museums, or swimming. Shortly after my mom finished radiation treatments, she met and married my stepdad and had this new support system in Clay to help her through the recovery and reconstruction. Clay has 2 sons, so my family expanded from 2 to 5. I had to learn to share my mother, which wasn't always easy. After Clay and his sons became part of our family, my parents decided they wanted to adopt. My mom couldn't have children because of the cancer, and God paired her with a spouse with a heart for adoption. I was so excited. My stepbrothers lived in Missouri, so I was not very close with them, and I was always wanted another sibling relationship that I could have closeness with. We began to foster Danny when I was in middle school and officially adopted him 2 years later. 10 days after Danny was placed with us, we got the twins, and I now had 2 brothers and a sister. A year later, we also adopted the twins' biological younger brother. It was a crazy time trying to navigate a household that increased so quickly. In the beginning, everything was fine, but after a while, I began to feel sort of alone. My siblings had all their own traumas and stories, and my mom and Clay had to work through them with my siblings. I started to feel like I was lacking the affection and the attention that I craved. I remember telling my mom how I was feeling at our lake house, and I will never forget the words she said. Love is not restricted. It's not like money where you buy something and it's gone. Love is infinite. There are no restrictions, and it's everywhere. Her words shifted things for me. I learned a lot in that one sentence my mom said. I realized that although my mom and my stepdad had more children that they loved, that it did not mean that they loved me any less. In fact, the more you love, the more it grows. My family bond felt stronger, and I started to feel a craving for that same love and affection I felt from my mother's conversation with my own faith. I realized that even if you are feeling alone or let down, love is around you, everywhere, even if you can't see it or feel it. At the time, I was barely 13, but I remember thinking that this applies even to people who do not know God. They may not see it or even know what it is yet, but He loves them and wants them to draw near. Little did I know those words would become an even bigger part of my story many years later. Due to the circumstances of my parents' divorce at a very young age, and my biological dad living in another country while I was growing up, my dad and I were never really that close. He was bipolar and had his problems, but would stay in touch mainly through phone calls, FaceTimes, Christmas, or birthday cards. My mom tried to maintain our relationship by bringing me there to see him, and he would occasionally come visit here. When he came to visit, he stayed at our own house with me. Despite that, I didn't get to see him very often, and I didn't ever really get to know him that well because of the distance. This past Labor Day, while I was participating in a 24-hour recruitment day for my sorority, my parents showed up. I knew it was bad as we lived 4 hours away, and their appearance was a total surprise. They pulled me out of recruitment to tell me that my dad had committed suicide. I remember my sorority sisters just surrounding me, pulling me in, and holding me without any agenda, having no idea what was happening. Some of these women were not people I was generally close with, but gave me the same comfort, which amazed me. They never asked why I was upset, what was going on, or why I had to leave. They knew my parents were there and I was distressed, and they simply surrounded me with love and support, no questions asked. Looking back, I can see that even receiving such difficult news, God was there for me through these women who showed me love and compassion without ever knowing why I needed it so badly. The weeks that followed were really difficult for me. I began to question what's wrong with me. What did I do wrong? Why didn't I pick up the phone more, FaceTime more? Was there something I said that made him choose the decision he made? I was stuck in my grief and the thought that maybe I could have prevented it. Through time and prayer, I realized that the problem was not me, nor was I the reason for his decision. My dad had a mental illness that he battled for a very long time. Eventually, the illness defeated him, but I think about him every day. Because of this, I had a deeper, more biblical question that kept weighing on me because my dad was agnostic. When I went to my mom, she told me, "You don't know what happened in the last few seconds of his life." I know that my family witnessed to him numerous times and loved him deeply and showed him the love of Christ. I realized that the times I did have with him were even more precious. The conversations we had, the cards in his handwriting that I have saved. My dad passed away in a very sad way, but I look back on those words my mom shared with me in that lake house, and I'm reminded of those little seeds of love God planted in each person's life, even when they can't recognize it, and how it blooms and grows. God planted me and my mom and my dad's lives so that he could live the life that he did. He was only 49, but if it weren't for us, maybe he wouldn't even made it that far. My mom told me that he had always said he would die before the age of 40 due to his mental illness and some physical problems too. God planted love in his life, and he was able to see that passion and learn of Christ's love, even if he didn't know it. God's love is everywhere, shown in different ways, but it's always there. This is my tapestry. My mother's breast cancer and the time we spent together, my family expanding radically and the trauma we worked through with my siblings, and the loss of my biological dad. These are all threads that God himself has woven into my story. These are the strings that together make the beautiful picture that reflects his love and his constant hand on my life. Although it has not always been easy and there have been many questions and tears, God has always been there, guiding, loving, lifting me up, and knitting the tapestry of my life. He will continue for as long as I live, and I'm excited to see the picture he continues to weave. Thank you.